Can you hear me now? 007. Hopefully that did the trick. Did that do it? How about now? Hey, Steph, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. LA Mimi or La Mimi, she was on here. They were on here. I don't know who it is. And at
She said
first,
she can hear you. She said she can't hear you now.
okay, I had to switch my mic, I think. Well, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate you so much. Hey,
Yeah.
Steph. What's up, girl?
Hey, Shug.
Clean your camera. Why you look foggy?
I look foggy.
A little bit.
Mm-mm.
Foggy.
So I can clean up.
So while Steph is getting herself together, thank you so much for once again for joining us here at Church Girls Chronicles. We have LA Mimi 007. I'm not quite sure who that is.
Hi,
Um,
sis. How are you?
is that good? You know who that is, Steph?
Is it our Mimi?
I
Hi,
don't
Mimi.
know.
No.
I don't think
Well,
that's her
oh, you
Instagram.
know what? It may be. Hi, Mia. I can't see your picture well, but I think that's Mia. Hi,
Hi,
Mia. How
Mia.
are you tonight?
I don't know who Mia is. Hi,
Yes.
Mia. How
Uh,
are
a
you?
friend of mine.
Hey,
Yes.
friends. Hey, friends. Hey, friends. All right. So thank you so much for
Thanks for
joining us
joining
here
us
at Church Girls
tonight,
Chronicles.
guys.
Oh, hi, Mia. She said, it's Mia, Miss Bradley.
I got you. I got you. I knew who it was when I saw. When I saw, I said, I looked out. I said, I know exactly who that is.
Hi, Mia. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate you for joining us here. We're going to wait for some other folks to hop in. My sister
Yeah,
Talisha jumped on. And as usual, we thank you so much for joining us for Church Girls Chronicles. We
always
don't take it for granted that you spend part of your
stay
Thursday
with
night
us.
with us. We
Yes.
really, really do. We're grateful for that because you don't have to be here, honey. You got other things you could possibly be doing.
Listen, the world is happening out here for real.
I was just telling somebody the other day. I don't think I've ever paid so much attention to a presidency as much as I'm paying attention to this one. Like
Yeah.
you know how you vote for president and you kind of just you find out who won and you go on about your business for four
Right.
years.
Right. Right. Right.
But now every day you're watching the news, you're watching your social media and to see what he did today. What did he do today, and how's that gonna affect my life?
I guess I don't do that simply because
I
I can't.
Yeah, I'm not
For me,
an
it's not.
active watcher. Like I'm not like rabbit holing every day, but stuff crosses your feed, and you're like,
Yeah.
Lord, not again. But yeah, it's a lot going on in this world. But we're so grateful that you take time out of your day to spend part of your world with our
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
And we're happy for that. And so thanks so
Yeah.
much.
Glad that you're trying to
So
come together.
tonight we are continuing our little series on managing your emotions, and
Yeah.
tonight we're talking about therapy and the believer.
Ooh.
Yes, we're talking about therapy and the believer.
Yeah.
It's a hot topic. Well, I think it's less of a hot topic than it has been in the past, but it's still something that I think is a little controversial.
And is.
Yeah, because people got and shouldn't be though, but it is. People be like to make like Daddy used to say like to make mountains out of molehills. It's not that deep. Um,
Well, you're right. I do agree that it's not that deep. I also agree that for us as a people, right, culturally, we struggle, child, because we ain't thinking about how we view mental health is something very different
yeah, and we
than
talked
people.
about a little bit about that a little bit last week or the
Yeah.
week
So
before.
because we view it differently, I think that is why, you know, this discovery, social media has made, put things on the market and mapped
Hmm.
it, and now people are starting to pay attention more critically
Hmm.
to their mental health, largely because of what we're starting to see, because of social
Right.
media and the blessing and the curse that it is,
Hmm.
for it all,
Right.
right? The blessing and curse that it can be.
Right.
So
And I think what is social with its more present with more of it being present on social media, it has brought up the conversation more for believers because even before back in the day before social media was a thing, if you did decide to go to therapy, you didn't necessarily tell nobody.
right,
That
yeah, it
was
definitely wasn't the thing you were out shouting from the
yeah.
mountaintops.
You wasn't sharing that information with every girl.
Right,
I'm in there. You didn't tell that.
right.
You
Definitely
didn't.
talk about it. No, it wasn't the thing you were talking about.
And so now, it's being talked about too, right?
Yeah.
And certain Christians are talking about them going their own therapy and being held to some sort of under some sort of light because of it, whether it's a good light or a bad light, pejorative light or not. But it's out here now. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, and if you're on with us now, please like and share. Tell somebody about it. Let them know that we're talking tonight, and we're talking for real, like we
Hmm.
always do. Just keeping it 100 and talking about really, the things that are happening in our everyday lives, and not just
Amos
our
Linda
everyday lives,
Williams.
but the lives of the people that we deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And so I think that is important for us to be able to chronicleize
Hmm.
in these
Yeah.
sessions, talking to one another, and
And I
so
think
I'm excited.
right. And it's cool. I think it's good too, and this is something that we talked about when we first started doing this. When it comes from the perspective of people who other folks know or don't know, and most people know we've been raised in the church and we spent our entire lives
Yeah,
in
for the
church,
most part, yeah.
and uh, it's like you have some people who haven't spent their whole life in the
Right.
church and now they are believers or now they're Christian, now they're saved or whatever title or label you want to give them.
Right.
And so they don't have a childhood or upbringing in the church, right? So they have a different perspective sometimes
Yeah, yeah,
on how they view some of these topics and controversial issues. So, we're going to give it to you from our perspective.
yeah.
So the burning question is the drum roll. Should Christians go to or be in therapy? Is it? Because I've heard some people even say that it's a sin, and if you go into therapy, you don't trust God. And I'll be like, oh, y'all are just really doing the most.
Doing the most. Okay, beyond the most. Extreme mostivity. Okay,
Yeah,
because
like
it's
it's just
way.
like you done jumped off the most
Let's just
cliff.
stop the
And
foolishness. Yes, and I thought this long before I became a therapist. I think people think
me
now
too.
because I am a
Well, I'm not a
therapist.
therapist, but I thought,
I've been in therapy since on and off because since I was what back in my late 20s.
mm,
So
oh yeah,
my first therapy started back then. That's been over 20 years ago.
mm-hmm,
So I've always been a firm believer that people needs the good therapist.
mm-hmm.
And I didn't
I
always have
mean,
Christian therapists, but I needed a therapist, most
right.
definitely.
And I mean, now, does the Bible use the term or talk about therapy in the same context that we use it today? No. And one thing I've been doing, I've been listening to or spending some of my time listening to. There's this whole app and movement and Bible called the Bible Project, and this is a Bible scholar, and he breaks down the
Yeah,
Bible like in a
I listened to him too.
very real way, but he helps us understand the context of the
Yes,
Bible. Like you get a really good understanding of the context. And one thing he said when I was listening to something, one of their podcasts or something this week, was that we have to remember that although it doesn't necessarily, the Bible doesn't necessarily use the exact words we use
uh,
today in our culture, in our society, it doesn't mean that it wasn't done. We just have
right.
to read the text and read the Bible. And hey, Kia,
Hey,
and
Clea.
hey, Lisa,
Hey,
um,
Linda. Hi, Linda
and
Williams. How are you?
we have
Yes.
to just read the
Yeah,
Bible
absolutely.
and remember that that was a different time, was a different culture, it was a different
Right.
era. They were living in a different country. It was, this was hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago that we're talking about that the Bible was written, right?
Yes.
So, although the Bible doesn't necessarily say, hey, yes, therapy is great, or
Yes.
hey, yes, therapy is from the devil, it does talk about wise
Right.
counsel a lot.
Right. 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 And
It talks about wise
yes,
counsel.
and understanding the derivative and beginning of words, right? So we understand that even, I mean, we choose words intentionally. So when you look at the word counselor, like most times, before we started using the word therapist, it was, I'm going to go see my counselor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the
Right.
same thing. It's counsel. So it's just there's a set of tools and understanding and wisdom that are given people to help you navigate life differently, and so or different from your experience. And I think people think that because you're a believer, that in some way your experience gets chucked off. But that Jesus paid it all, most definitely
Right.
and fully. And that true, if any man be in him, all things are new. That's true too. But the way to new takes work. You don't get to
Yes.
do without some work.
Right.
And sometimes you know what it is that needs to be uncovered and shifted and changed through by way of Holy Spirit. But sometimes God has to send counsel, right? Jesus came and walked among the disciples in order for him to disciple and impact their lives. And they in turn did that for many years in order to build the church. They walked together as a community to impact the lives of others around them. So they physically showed up, physically shared the word, physically supported, physically, helped them financially, you know,
Mm-hmm.
physically coached people in their lives. And those things were happening. And what we would consider now as counsel or coaching existed during that same time. And they came alongside and scaffolded people's lives with the gospel in order for them to experience
Right.
change and transformation or maintain, because that's another thing that we often leave out, maintain change and transformation. So I think that that's important for us to be clear about, that it's more than just, oh, go pray about it, right? And I
Right.
think for many years in our community, it was, oh, go pray about it. Yeah, after you finish praying, I need you to get up from that place of prayer and go get some counsel.
Yeah.
Because we know in part, we prophesy in part, we know all these things just in part.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
don't even, we don't know all the things. And so, especially when you've experienced things and the people that you're counseling have traveled the same road and the same journey and have had the same experiences as you, they don't have an outside view of anything, right? So they can't give you
Mm-hmm.
different tools, different ideas, different concepts, and a different way to address things. So it's necessary. And I think biblically, there are plenty of things to support that. I know you were looking up some scriptures and things that support counsel. So yeah.
And it's, I mean, well, like I said, the word therapy is not in the Bible, but therapy can be defined as a meeting between two or more people who are working together to resolve matters and implement healthy practices, like you said,
Mhm.
and not only implement them, but once they're implemented, we need to be able to maintain those healthy practices.
Yes,
And it talks about how that there are benefits to doing that,
right.
and how it benefits our lives when we seek when we seek counsel and community to be
Yeah,
able to resolve issues and build healthy practices, because that's all we do when we go to therapy. We resolve either issues within ourselves. If you're going to marriage counseling or marital therapy, you're resolving issues in your marriage. And
yeah,
some people go to family counseling with their whole family, and then they're resolving issues in their family and
yeah.
trying to find healthy practices so that they can maintain the relationships and the lifestyles that they have. And I don't understand why people are so adverse to
Well,
that.
I think it's so crazy because you're saying that, and then the etymology of the word therapy in the Greek, it actually means minister to or treat medically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it also means healing. Um,
Yep.
and so when you think about it, like just the root of the word and counsel, it may not, while it does not appear to say that scripturally, you can definitely trace that word back throughout scripture by way of meaning, by the core meaning of the word throughout the scripture, right? That there is a component of healing that happens through talking, sharing, and gleaning and gathering information
Mhm.
that you didn't know.
Right. And it shouldn't, it definitely should not replace us seeking God first, right?
No, 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 no.
It,
It's
it
not a
doesn't it
replacement.
doesn't replace that. It's not a replacement for our relationship or our seeking God's face, or a replacement for worship and prayer. It's not a replacement of those things. We're not saying no longer do those things. We're saying that along with those things, use some wise counsel and some therapy and community to be able to guide you to a place of healing, because I mean, not for nothing, the Lord knew who was going to need it.
It works alongside those things because what
Yeah.
people don't, all the things that God gives us are tools, right? And things to use to grow us spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, In our spiritual growth impacts the way that we think and feel first,
Yeah.
right? So as we grow spiritually, our thoughts and feelings are impacted. And when we
And
start to
then
talk about mental health, they're the foundational place that that we address. as mental health technicians and clinicians, right? We're addressing thoughts and feelings and how those things manifest themselves in behaviors.
Right.
So our spiritual walk is an address to that. The Bible talks all the time about our mind and how it should be managed and how it should be um, uh, processed and how it should be challenged by building ourselves up spiritually. And so you can't negate one for the other. They work in tandem with one another in order for you to be healthy. I mean, I
Yeah.
think you have to know that they work in tandem. God gave us emotions intentionally. He didn't, and He allowed us to be soulish beings, meaning that we have
He
reasoning
created us to be
and
that way.
feelings, right?
Yeah.
He created us as such, and in cooperation with with our spiritual being.
Right.
So He intentionally created us to have these. Um, to be triune beings, right? These beings that exist on planes that are physical, that are mental, and that are spiritual. So all of those planes must be ministered to. And oftentimes our mental plane is the one that is most left out. And in certain cultures, most ignored.
Right. And it's just and it kind of speaks to how last week I can't remember, we were talking about, in certain cultures is ignored more than
Of
others,
course.
or has been ignored more than
Right.
others. And I think, the stigma of it comes from the whole stigma of, needing or having mental health issues, or challenges and concerns, or whatever the case may be. We didn't talk about it.
Mm-mm.
We
Uncle Jerome,
didn't talk about it.
like
So
we
why
said
are you
last
gonna
week,
go
Uncle
and
Jerome
talk
always be in the
about
back
it
room.
to a stranger? Like,
Hmm.
we,
Yeah, we
we
hid
didn't
Uncle
talk
Jerome in
about
the
it with
back
each
room. The one,
other.
yeah, we hid him in the back room. He was always the uncle that, was 40 years old, 50 years old at grandma's house to talk to himself. He was somewhere in a room,
Mhm.
somewhere. Like we didn't talk about him.
And not only
And
that, but not only not even necessarily to that extreme, but if you yourself are just, struggling in a moment in life,
right,
we were not, typically you're not supposed to talk about how sad and upset, or overwhelmed you feel.
right.
Then you're not strong, or then you're not praying. And you're not trusting God. Yeah, I am, but I need some help through these moments in life.
And it's so funny because I was just telling somebody this today. Um, I was like, there's a whole entire book called Lamentations.
Short is.
Like, it's
Oh,
a whole book about lamenting,
yep.
sadness, being
Sadness.
disappointed,
The
being
whole
frustrated. It's a
book.
whole baby. Look, it's a book. It's in the Bibles.
It is
Like
in the
it's in the
Bible.
Bibles. The whole book is about
The
lamentation. So
Bible.
my question is, if God is not concerned about my feelings, why would He allow a whole book to exist
Five whole
with
chapters,
five
entire chapters.
chapters of lamentation? Why would it exist?
Right.
He's concerned about how I
He
feel.
cares
And so
about
I
it. Yep.
struggle so much when people started talking about and the quandary that it leaves people in, especially spiritual people, like lofty spiritual people,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say. That it leaves people in because they really can't understand why things have been the same in their lives forever and ever and ever. And they go to church every Sunday having to speak in tongues and lay all out on the floor and be doing all those things. Because when you got up from there, you didn't let God deal with your emotions.
Right.
Amen. And you have not been, you've been, um, you just been fronting pretty much
Mm-hmm.
and thinking that, and because you don't have enough awareness to let the power of God
Right.
work in certain areas. And sometimes in order for it to work, you got to employ a third party
Mm-hmm.
to help you see
And
some things.
right. And sometimes even too, I think when we put ourselves in a position that we're not willing to talk about how we're feeling or what we're going through, it also challenges our faith. How much do you really trust God? Because if you are not willing to talk to anybody, you're probably not talking to Him
Right.
either
More than
about
likely.
what you're going
More than
through.
likely. More than
Yeah, and
likely.
what's happening with
Right.
you. You're probably not taking that to the altar. You're not bringing that up in prayer. You're not, talking to God about it, and praying about it, and you're not.
Well, proof of that is this whole concept that people, propagate about He not putting more on you than you can bear. Yes,
Yes,
He
He
will.
will.
He do it all the time.
And wait, and it's not so much that He will,
He
but sometimes life
allows.
just does it.
Life is happening all the time around you, and it's more than you can bear. He didn't
I
design you to
it
bear
it
anything
it
because he said,
blows
cast your
my
cares
mind.
on me. But because you are so determined to be strong, so determined to keep it together, so determined, and your poor mental state has tricked you into believing that living your life in a reactionary way and not in a proactive way, as long as you keeping it together, amen, then you in turn are in some way in control. And the
Right.
bottom line is
And you're
you are
not trusting God.
is that you're further from trusting God than the person who says, I got a problem and I'm just tired and I'm angry and I need to,
Yep.
this is too much and I
Yep. Yep.
cannot bear it.
Right.
That person at least is at a place of vulnerability in themselves to look for help, to say, I've had enough. This is too much, and that I am not that person that's strong enough to keep it together, and that
Right.
God never intended me to be.
No,
He
he
never intended me to be the
never.
person to keep it together. That was
He
not
never
his
intended that.
desire for
Nope.
us.
He never intended that. And if we're constantly in that state of mind, like you said, of, he never put me in more, so this must, and it baffles me how much we blame on God and the devil.
It be
We
us.
completely and because I've been watching too a lot the movie called The Shack. Um, and for those of you who don't know, it was a pretty popular
It was a
novel
book. Hmm.
written. I've read the book twice, and now the movie's on Netflix if you want to
Right.
watch it. Um, it's a movie, and this guy, he has a family. His daughter got kidnapped and died, and he became very angry and couldn't move on. And the book is about this encounter that he has with God to be able to get through his anger. And one thing that like the one every time I watch it, I didn't see necessarily until I started watching it again a couple of weeks ago, how he was just blaming God for the choices that another person made and how those choices are affecting his
Well,
life.
Shannon, we do it all the time.
Right.
How we treat God is,
And
and this is the trick, and that's crazy because we often talk about being in relationship with God, right, and being in relationship with the Lord. Well, how you learn how to relate to people around you is how oftentimes we relate to
exactly,
God. And that's dysfunctional. And
it
that's a
is
lot of reasons. A lot of people need therapy just for that.
just
It's
for that.
hard if he's talking about himself as father and Abba
Hmm.
for you to see him as father if you never had one and you mad at the one you had.
Hmm. Right.
So when God does something, when things don't go the way you wanted to go, and somebody says to you, God is your father, well, I expect that.
Right.
I'm disappointed
Because I
again
know how
by
my
God
daddy
because
treated me.
fathers disappoint. That comes from that, that
Hmm.
dysfunction, and the
Right.
way you relate in that space is then you project that same that emotion when it comes down to how you see God, right? So how we relate to Him oftentimes is how we relate to other people, and when that relational space for us, interpersonal relational space, is dysfunctional and it has attachment issues and all that kind of stuff. When all those things are in the way, it's when we're experiencing God, we treat Him like we treat people.
Yeah. Yep. And I thought that one of the things that's so powerful is that this guy was by himself, and God showed up in this premonition to him in the form of God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus.
Uh-huh.
And it's a really good um depiction, like visual, of how we got to work through that unforgiveness, and that the unforgiveness of other folks in our
Right.
lives, to be able to um heal our relationship with God, and how we often think that we are in control and we're the ones who are allowed to judge other people. And because of that, also, hi Danielle, Monique, and how because of that also we judge
Yeah.
God, and
How we relate to others, our dysfunction.
and we think that it's his fault that this person made this poor choice,
Right.
and
Hello.
we don't. It's just amazing to me, and that we are so willing. How mm, I don't know if I want to use the word easy, because I don't want to make it seem small, but how easy it is to just like brush it off and put the responsibility on God or on someone else, and just be like, well, I'm fine.
Well, it's easy for us to do that because we've been doing that all of our
Right.
lives. And whatever beliefs, wherever our heart lies in a space of belief, that's what drives us. And
Hmm.
so that's why, the scripture says, with the heart, a man believeth and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be saved daily because it's an uprooting first of what's in our hearts, what we believe, what we've allowed to rest in us, and we've established in ourselves as a system of belief. So if I believe that I'm no good, it's difficult to accept God's love. Why? Because I believe I'm no good. Because that's the experience that I've had with my family and my friends and my mother and my father. And my experience with them is to feel abandoned and to be left out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm walking away not feeling worthy, not feeling enough. How do I accept the love of God?
Mm-hmm.
How is God's love
Yeah.
translating to me?
Mm-hmm.
Something has to come along and challenge that
Mm-hmm.
belief system that I'm not enough.
Right. And I think that it also is because we can't understand how it translates to us. So it's hard for us to accept God's love. And so it makes it hard for us to understand how God can love people who have done us wrong
Right.
or who have done really bad things in this
Mm-hmm.
world. Because as crazy as Donald Trump is, the Lord loves him too.
Mm-hmm.
He does.
Yeah.
And those are the types of things that we got to work through
Mm-hmm.
sometimes to be able to heal and to be able to move on and to be able to live, like you were saying earlier, and maintain our healing. And we can't do that if we are not necessarily talking to folks who can point us in that
Right.
direction.
And we
Because
can't
we're
be open to
usually
the level.
not facing that direction.
Right. We can't be open to the level of challenge that spiritual growth brings if we're not ready to be broken in those spaces that we've practiced for so long, right? And have become our norm and have become our place of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Growing spiritually will challenge that every
Mm-hmm.
time. And so that's why I think, even more of a validation for why we need therapy, because it's the eye opening that it does, right? To kind of bring aha moments into our lives and say, you've been thinking the wrong way all this time. Let me uproot that, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
now the scripture can speak to you differently. All of everything that we experience is colored by our perspective. Our perspective is colored by our experience. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
everything that we see, everything and how we take in information is colored by our experiences.
Which
And
lens we're
so,
looking at it through.
right. And so oftentimes, we don't even know it's time to take, to change the glasses. I've worn these same glasses. I've had these glasses for some time now. And I realize that I don't see as well as I did when I first got these glasses. But for the most part, I can see, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not tripping. But I bet you if I go back, but it wouldn't be of a surprise to me to go back to the eye doctor. He says, Chuck, them lenses, you need a whole different prescription,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's not something that you experience. Like when I'm having on these glasses, I don't know that I need a different prescription because I can see well enough. I can see what I need to see in front of me. You
Mm-hmm.
understand what I'm saying? So oftentimes, we don't know because the lens has not been switched. But you know how you be at the eye doctor and you go to switching it and you be like, "Ooh, click it, click it. Can you see better here
Number
now?"
one or number
You think you're
two.
doing some good seeing, and then
And
and
he
then all of a sudden some other lens
flips it to
drops.
number three, and you like, whoa.
Wait, that's way better right there, right? Right. But it takes somebody else to change the lens for us. And I think therapy oftentimes too serves as that lens changer, that the preach word of God, being in community, being, having good leadership spiritually and the people around us, good friends that tell us the truth, all of those things weigh in to help us change the lens and build and become better people.
Right.
But it's that level of like it's that balancing of those things and knowing that we need those things.
Mm-hmm.
And what times and seasons in our lives that changes. There's certain things I can get through with just having a great community of
Right.
people around me.
Right.
But there are other things that I need to call a therapist for, or I need to
Right.
go and get a coach for, or I need to be, drawing closer, maybe meeting once a month with my pastor for. Like
Mm-hmm.
we need to know, when certain things arise, who to
Yeah.
call, what
Yeah.
help do I need,
Right. And so, as we thank everybody for jumping
Thanks,
on,
guys,
Bev,
for joining us,
Bev
Danielle and
Martinez,
Lisa and Linda.
Lisa, you were saying me too, to which statement? Because we've been saying a lot of
Yeah, we just talking. Yes.
things.
But we're so glad you're joining
But
us
we're
tonight. And
so
where are you
glad you're
joining us
joining us
from?
today.
Yeah, could
And
you
let
let
us
us know where
know.
you're joining us from in the comments as well? We're so glad to have you tonight, especially if this is your first time on hearing us. My name is Stephanie. This is my sister Shayna, and we are Church Girl Chronicles. And we appreciate you for joining us tonight. So let us know where you're from.
Hi,
Tap in your net,
Darlene
tag in your
Tits.
net. Um,
Hey,
I,
Darlene Hits. So, and
you,
that, so as we're moving into this next, moving through this conversation, I think it's pretty clear that Steph and I both are on, team therapy, right? We're team therapy. We both have been in and currently are in and have been in and out of therapy.
hey,
And
Nay,
there's
thanks for
no
joining us from New
shame
York.
in my. Oh, hi, New York, from Nay's Way is from.
Thanks for
Hi, thank you
joining us,
for joining
Nay.
us from New
Hey,
York.
Miss Darlene, thank you for joining us. She's joining us from Portsmouth,
Hi.
Virginia.
But yeah, we're team therapy.
Yes, we are.
I've been in and out of therapy for extended periods of time. Take a break, go back. Like Steph said, you got to know what you need when you need
Thanks,
it.
Leah. Share what
So
you
in
can.
looking for therapy, in saying that, we're all, cool, and we're like, all right, let's agree that therapy is okay for believers.
Right, right.
So with that being said, now how do you find, or what do you look for?
Hey, Bev.
Bev Martinez is joining. Is it Martinez? I'm sorry, is joining us from
Hey,
Virginia.
Bev.
Mia, thank you for inviting her. We appreciate that, Mia.
Yes,
Thanks
all
for the
your family jumped on me. Thank you.
invite. And so, what do you look for? How do you find a therapist that works for you?
Mm,
Because I know for me, it was tough at first. Um, it was
it's definitely.
tough, like trying to find a therapist. Because at first, of course, being a believer, the first thing everybody says, well, is did you get a Christian therapist? No.
Not all
I
the
mean,
time. Like, no.
all the time that's not necessarily necessary.
Okay, Lisa, we're gonna help you tonight, girl. We're gonna
Oh,
help you
you're looking
tonight, Lisa. We're gonna help you.
for one? Yes, because one thing we are going to do when we get done, we're going to definitely put in our comments somewhere on our page some links to some places Steph can drop, some links to some places where you can find a good
Yeah,
therapist, how to go about finding one. Steph is a therapist, and so if you need one, you can always inbox her, and she can help you out until you find someone. She can be your therapist, and maybe your search could be over.
yes.
You know, so we're definitely going to provide some resources, but I know for me personally, it's not necessarily. It's I don't look for Christian counseling, like, right. I don't go to a place where everybody in there is ministers and grew up in the church and gonna come in there with a Bible. Let's start off with prayer. No, I need somebody who's been trained in how emotions work, how your brains work, how your brain works, what happens to your brain when you're sad, what happens, what's going on chemically in your brain when certain. I need to talk to somebody who's been to school for that.
Yeah.
I
So
don't need.
credentialing is important.
Yeah.
Credentialing is important. Finding somebody who is credentialed and
Mia was
licensed.
yeah, Mia was saying that she believes you have to build a good connection and feel comfortable. Very true.
That's true.
You have to, but with that, right, I don't want somebody who doesn't understand my belief
Yeah.
system. Or, I want to be with someone who I want to find a counselor who is a Christian and understands what I mean. Or, if I happen to say, I was praying in the spirit or whatever, they're not looking at me like I got four heads.
Calling the people.
Yeah, and calling people because
I want you to call people.
right, just like we were talking
Because I
some time
see
ago
something in the
about
spirit. Oh,
we were
do
talking
you?
some
Are you
time
delusional?
ago about how culturally it's important to find a doctor who understands you, like a physician,
Right.
right? And I think
Right.
I brought up a story about how there was a young lady who was in the hospital. She was black, and she was on the floor. She was in the hospital,
Mhm.
and she had a weave or braids in, so she was patting her head. Right? We
Well,
all know what that means.
right.
But she had a white nurse and she had a white doctor. And
Mhm.
then when the shift changed, and this is a true story, when the shift changed, she got a different nurse on duty who was black. So as they were, they changed notes when the shift changes. The white nurse told the black nurse, I put in for a psych consult because every time I went into the room, she was patting her head. She said, "Girl, that's just because her head was itching. Like, what you mean?
Right.
You know,
Having cultural
yeah,
awareness.
it's cultural awareness. I think, with so along the same. I think it's important that I find someone who understands and not only understands but supports my belief system. So it's
Yeah,
important to
cultural
me.
competence is important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's but you don't. But I still want a counselor outside of the
Yeah.
church.
So for me, I usually ask people to I mean, I advertise myself as a therapist and counselor, who happens to be Christian. I don't advertise myself as a Christian counselor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a counselor who happens to be Christian, and I ask my clients, is that something that they want to be a part of their treatment plan? Like, do you want to incorporate prayer? Do you want to incorporate, these spiritual things? And
That's
if they do,
important.
that's great. That's carte blanche for me to go ahead and be, to do the
All the
thing.
way Christian.
Right, all the way there. But then there are those that's like, no, or they have a different religious belief. I know, because of that though too, I know how to incorporate those things for them to help them find their path to healing. Because it's not my job to make those decisions for people, right? It's my job to support them in their healing process. So, I've had clients who are Muslim. I've had clients who don't believe at all. I've had
Mm-hmm.
clients who, um, have different systems of belief. And my Christian clients, they let me know, yes, girl, I need all of that, the prayer and and all the things, and the scripture and all the things, and I love that. Because I think, but you can't. I don't believe that you can have any type of mental growth or mental health without having some spiritual or faith-based component. Like
Correct.
you need that, whatever your line or vein that you choose, you need that because that you can't have mental growth without spiritual growth. I don't believe that.
Right. Right. And I think and it's hard to, I will say that it is difficult to be able to like wade through that information, and there are certain resources in place that help you find a therapist based on those credentials. Um, but like I said, Steph is, she's a therapist. If you're looking for one, just hit her up.
Hit me up.
Uh, hit her up. You can send her, you can send her a message, or send us an email in our on our or through the link on our page. But
But
I know for
therapists are confined though to their states. So like I'm confined to Virginia and soon New Jersey and hopefully North Carolina.
as far as your
So those three,
credentials are concerned, you mean?
right, as far as my credentials are concerned, I could see people from those states. If you're looking though in another state, and thanks, Mia. If you're looking in another state, then I could always help and support with that as well. So if you
Hmm.
have wanted to DM me about that, I could always get you some help because I know people, in other spaces too. So let me know.
Right. So I think it's important though that we it's just as important as finding a good doctor. When you start finding a physician, you have certain things and certain you look and she said, how about
Actually,
Atlanta?
I have a couple friends in Atlanta, so yes, I can make some referrals in that area as well,
This is
or give you some names. So
good.
yeah.
Okay, guys. Steph is going to help y'all find a therapist that's in your wheelhouse. Thank God for that. That's awesome. I'm really excited about that. I am, because I think it's really
It is.
important, because people, man, life gets hard.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to speak out and say, hey, I need help, it can definitely keep you from going to some deeper and darker spaces.
Yeah.
And I think, that's the first step, right? To keep us from drifting off. Now, I know I spoke earlier about blaming stuff on God and the devil, but ultimately, especially when it comes to believers, the devil, he kind of knows that you can't get unsaved, right? So he tries to isolate us and put us in dark spaces, and have us feel that we're outside of the will of God,
Hmm.
and all of the things that keep us turned away
Hmm.
from a relationship with God, which keeps us from having an abundant life here on earth. And that's his goal. That's especially when it comes to believers. That's his goal. He wants you to stay in the darkness. He wants you to stay in a space where you feel alone and feel sad and feel by yourself. He wants that. So if you're willing to speak out and say, hey, yeah, I need some therapy. There's no shame in that.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. I think, it's to be applauded when people advocate for themselves. You advocate for your own mental health. You advocate for your own your space, because if you're not well, whether it's
Right.
physical, if you're not physically well, we understand that, oh, I can't help my family, I can't help myself, I can't help my family. But that mental piece, man, it really throws people for a loop.
Right. And you have to know that there, like therapy, especially, I think people think that you just go to, like, some people are just, talk therapists, especially now in this age of virtual therapy, and that talk therapy is really what it is. You just get on the phone and you start talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I encourage people all the time. There are so many different modalities. At one time in my life, I was struggling with, what struggle with therapy, going to therapy. It is something that's culturally ingrained in us. I think, yeah, I think that, it's just
Accepting
something,
therapy. Yeah.
yeah, accepting
It,
therapy,
it,
and accepting help. I think it's just because the stigma has always been that we have to be strong, and
yeah.
that we have to keep it together,
Yeah.
and that we have to, all those things we're
It's hard
talking about,
for us to accept the fact that we're having a problem or a challenge in the first
right.
place. Like,
And
it's
that something was wrong with
admit
you.
that
We
first.
ain't crazy, right?
Mm, mm-mm. Admit that first. Admit that something is wrong first.
Right.
And that's, I think, culturally has been our issue. Is like Steph was saying, like, oh, you just keep on praying, you be all right. Will I though? Because I can't even get to the prayer.
Right. And people, I mean, honey, listen, it's serious. Like I said, I think we acknowledge different, like that's what I was about to say about different kinds of therapy. We don't acknowledge the depth of, you know, it's, honey, we've known family members for years. You look at their lives and you find out information, you're like, and you look back over, oh, they were clinically depressed for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't get out
Mm-hmm.
the bed, they couldn't talk, they didn't want to talk to nobody, they didn't come outside. Like they got names for that kind of stuff, and so no one wanted to be called them names. They didn't want to be, and the history behind therapy in and of itself, especially for women in general, it's specifically for Black women, the stigma with it was always so horrible. So I
Mm-hmm.
think, and the way people were treated and the way mental illness was treated for many, many, many years. I mean, those people were locked away and experimented on. Who wants that, right? So who wanted
Mm-hmm.
that kind of life? And
Yeah.
so
Trusting
any
the
deviance, right?
mm,
Any type of deviance of any kind, right? If it was something as simple as just depression, or having a panic attack,
right.
it was
They
considered
didn't understand
hysteria.
it as
They
well.
locked you
Yeah.
away for that, and they was giving you a lobotomy, like in the front of your brain was coming.
Yep.
It was electrocuting you in the front of your brain. So who wanted that? So with that comes, of course, a valid stigma because of how it
It
was
was
treated for so many
treated.
years.
Yeah.
And so
Yep. Yep.
yes,
Yep.
and we were definite guinea pig. Black people were guinea pigs
Oh,
throughout
for
the whole
everything.
mental health. Yeah, we were just doing some everything there. So did anybody want to go do that? Like, who wants to do that?
Yeah.
So that is why I think historically and culturally it was such a stigma, and now we're starting to break through because information is everything, which leads me to what I was going to say about specialty areas when Shana was talking about a doctor. You wouldn't go to a foot doctor and expect a foot doctor to tell you what to do with your
Right.
eyes, right? You would go to an eye doctor for your eyes, a foot doctor for your foot. When you understand that there are certain things that are happening to you, there are certain therapists that better handle those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just
Hey, Todd.
did my. Hi Tosh, how you doing? Tosh, I did a thing last week where I did
Did
my
you say I
application.
just did a thing?
I did a thing. I did a
I
thing.
hate when people say
I just did a
you
thing.
did a thing.
I just signed up for my PhD
Yes, you
in counseling
did. You did
with
it. You did
hey
it.
Tosh, with and my specialty, my area is going to be traumatology and traumatology. So so for me, traumatology will be the thing that I work with, and then some other things that I want to do. But like trauma and substance abuse are my niches and areas that I'm most familiar with. They're the areas I've worked most in. In school I studied more specifically in those areas. I mean, while I do children, while I do young people, I have a lot of life experience in that space because I was a teacher. My area of expertise. Thank you. My area of expertise, is, and I'm moving towards that more and more. Are people who have had traumatic events, trauma and grief, and
Mhm.
substance abuse are areas that I really, I've studied extensively in. So you want somebody who's had extra study, extra information, who's put some emphasis in a particular area of study when you're going to choose them for a therapist. If you know you're struggling with grief, when you're looking for a therapist, you can ask the question, do you work with a lot of clients who have had grief issues? Is grief an area that that you specialize in? Because I'm really struggling with that, right?
Mhm.
You could ask those questions just like you would a doctor. You would not go, like I said, you would, the same way that you would uh, uh, interview a doctor or someone who is going to be dealing with you for any other type of pathology. You can do the same thing when you're dealing with a therapist. So I really encourage people to empower themselves with information. And when they're seeing a therapist, and then my job as a therapist, if I meet with somebody and you're not, is to be able to ascertain whether we are a good match. And if I don't say it, then you have the right to say it.
Mm-hmm.
But me as a therapist, if I meet you and we have a great consult and I'm talking to you and you start talking to me about something that I'm like, I ain't good at
Yeah.
that. Or you want to bring me your 5-year-old and that's, you just want me to see a 5-year-old, and I don't do 5-year-olds alone. I can do 5-year-olds with their moms and dads, and I can do family therapy, and I have no problem with helping with parental stuff. But just seeing a 5-year-old, I would recommend you to somebody who does RPT, or like, because they like to play, so play therapy, specific to those kinds of
Hey,
areas.
Val.
Hey sis. So those are things that are important to know when you're looking for a therapist. And it's okay for your children and you not to have the same therapist. It's okay for your children and you to have the same therapist if you're doing family therapy and you're looking to do that at large. So there are different things, different ways, and you have a right to do the research and to arm yourself with information so that you pick the right therapist for yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And it's going to be just like, it's important that you put the work in to do it. Hi,
Hey
Val. Hi, Barry.
sis. Hey.
Tasha hopped
Hey
on.
Tosh. Good to see you.
Thanks
Thanks.
so much for joining us, everybody. But I think, it's worth it when we think about our physical bodies. We're willing to do the work and put the time in, right? And I think it's important that we start doing the work and putting the time in for our mental health too. And I forget who asked the question about why do we have such a stigma behind it. But if you think about it, especially Black people in this country, Black
Mia.
Americans
Yeah.
who, you know, it, we have been traumatized in the worst way imaginable, right?
Mhm.
Um, and you've been ripped from your family, thrown on a boat around hundreds of people who don't speak the language that you speak, all while being beaten or raped or seeing other people getting murdered and taken to a place you have no idea where you are, forced to work in a way that you've never had to work before in your life, not allowed to have connections with people that you're building relationships with. That's traumatic. And that's just the surface. That's just the tip of the iceberg of things that happen to us as Black people in this country. So if you think of, and then being told that you can't say anything,
Right.
that is ingrained. Like that's just been what we've been
It's in
told
our
our
it's in our
entire
DNA.
existence.
It's yes, it's
Yeah,
genetic.
you
It's a
we're gonna
pathology.
traumatize you,
It's
but
in our
don't talk about
pathology.
it.
Yeah, right.
We're gonna traumatize you, and we're gonna do all these terrible things to you, but you can't talk about it. You couldn't even talk about it to each other. We weren't allowed to get together and pray. We weren't allowed to build community. We weren't allowed to keep the community that we had. We weren't allowed to
Was
do
ever
that.
changing, right? Ever
And it was
changing.
consistent, always changing. You were being pulled from one place to another. You were being ripped away from the people that you loved. Your language was stolen. Our culture was stolen. Our everything about us was just taken away. And that is the definition of trauma.
And it builds in a certain set of beliefs and
Yeah.
fears and behaviors. And when practiced over time, even when they've changed it, shifted it, and masked it to look like something else, it invokes those same fears, systems of belief, and
Yeah.
dysfunction. And I think where, you know, now we're starting to see it in different ways. And not, I think the beauty of what we bring to this space, though,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
And what we as a culture, and I want to encourage us as Black people to understand this, even despite therapy,
Yep.
we were able in all of that to develop tools to be able to deal with and not become, and for the majority of us, a lot of us have learned how not to live as victims to that reality, but have become overcomers in so many ways. Um, and so I think, but also like a negative to that as well is when you get to the place where it appears successful, right? Or it appears as if you have a kind of like overcome some things, you don't recognize the little foxes that are consistently spoiling the vine.
Right. Right.
And what you laughing at?
Yeah. And our the Thank you so much, my time, my choose, for joining us, and everyone else who has joined us. Let's not leave it alone.
I can't. I
I,
can't read. I can't see nothing. So I don't
I
know.
thought you could. Why are you taking your glasses off?
No. I can't see after a while. Whatever scroll ups are happening.
Yeah,
I
I
don't.
can't see them either. I think because, especially when there's a lot of comments, it kind of like just stops
No.
for me.
I can't see. As a joining party, they stop
You
for
saw
me as
somebody
well. Like
say
I
congratulations, though.
did. I can see up to a certain point, but when new people jump on, it takes a minute for me to
Oh
see
yeah.
it.
But yes, I think it's important that we start um working and operating outside of this. Just start breaking stereotypes. At some point, we have to be the person who is going to break the chain. We have to be the person who's going to say, enough is enough. And I'm no longer going to walk down that path of fear of, dealing with my emotions. I'm no longer going to walk down that path of feeling like I can't get therapy, or that therapy is not for me.
Hmm.
I've heard that term. So, oh, therapy is just not for me. Honey, therapy is for everybody.
Child, listen,
It is for everybody.
listen.
And it doesn't need to be lifelong. I heard somebody say um, that they've been in therapy for 25 years with the same person. You just got a paid friendship at that point. You just paying for friends.
Or they just care about you a lot, or you may
Yeah,
have some chronic issues, and it's
right.
funny that like you may have a chronic. I mean, it's funny to say yes, you're paying for a friend, but there are people who have real mental health issues that are on
Right.
medication that need long term care.
Yes.
Just like if you had a
That
chronic
wasn't this
illness or
person's
chronic disease,
case, but yes, you are correct.
right?
Some people do need
So yeah, you need a therapist forever.
extended
Yeah, you definitely
therapy.
need one.
So, and I think it's also because the difference between we stopped using the terms psychiatrist and psychologist. I'm seeing a psychiatrist. Why is that, Steph?
Well, yeah, because they're
This is your
different
field.
things. So a psychiatrist says you need medicine, right? Most people the psychiatrist is the doctor of the brain, of the mind, and mental illness. So you go to that person. That person has a PhD, like any other medical doctor. A psychiatrist has a PhD like any other medical doctor. He just specializes, or she specializes in the brain and mental health disorders. So he is one tier of the process. Oftentimes, if I'm referring a client to a psychiatrist, what they don't see you from week to week. They usually see you every 30 days to evaluate you originally for whatever major mental health disorder you may be experiencing and to issue you medication. A psychologist, and the beauty about like things, growing over time, and then oftentimes you would see a psychologist for therapy.
Mhm.
A psychologist cannot administer medication. There are doctorates, PhDs of the mind, of the brain. They study behavior, study all those
They don't have a
things. Um,
medical degree.
but they don't have a medical degree and they can't write you a script for medication. But oftentimes that was who your next stop was if you were going to be doing like weekly therapy. You would do that oftentimes with a psychologist. Nowadays, um, master's level degreed therapists and counselors, which is because we're a fairly new profession. It's not 30, 40 years old, even 30 years old, even. But to be able to have the same access and ability as a psychologist to hang a shingle, see people individually weekly,
Mhm.
to be able to support them through their mental health struggles and help them find new paths to building coping skills and tools is now as that same job through licensure has been and access has been given to master's level degree people who have degrees in mental health counseling, in social work, in clinical social work, which is different than just having a social work degree.
Mhm.
And different states call it different things, but those are the two major areas: clinical mental health counseling or clinical social work. Those persons are master degree people who have gone through a series of residential training, just like any other doctor or psychologist would have to go through. For 2 years, you have to serve in residency and be licensed by the state to be able to hang a shingle and see people. So that's the
Singing.
tier of it all. Like I said, my recourse for a patient that's coming to me that may have a severe mental health disorder that's diagnosable and needing medication. So say you diagnosed with bipolar 1 or schizophrenia or schizoaffective disorder or something like that. my job and my responsibility ethically would be to refer you to a psychiatrist so that
Mm,
that person could be evaluating and managing your medication every 30, 60, or 90 days, depending on whatever you're working out with that psychiatrist. They give you a deeper level of assessment, both
mm-hmm,
psychiatrists and psychologists. They give you a deeper level of assessment, and they will help you determine what um, the best course of action would be. Some of that would just be talk therapy, getting a therapist. Some mean you may need therapy, you might need inpatient services, you might need clinical, you may need rehabilitation or some type of long-term inpatient care, or you might need medication. All those things are determined by an evaluation by a psychiatrist when you have higher tier acute mental health issues. So
mm-hmm.
that's kind of how the ranking goes, hierarchy goes.
Don't y'all feel smarter? That's awesome. You should feel smarter
Yes.
after
So now you know all the things,
that. So now you know. So you might. Some people need
all of the above.
all of it. Yeah,
You need all the above.
and you won't know until you
Yeah,
go. And there's nothing wrong with needing it.
yeah,
You know, finding out where you are and what you need is where we're trying to get people to go, because it's no need for folks to be living in darkness for no reason and being tormented by life.
yeah. But if you've had some issues, I want to share this with people too. Like, so if you've been depressed and you feel like you've been depressed for like on and off, you've suffered depression for like 5 or 6 years. Over time, when untreated, it's like anything else. It begins to transform your brain
Mm-hmm.
chemically. So when you come to a therapist, don't be shocked or surprised if your depression has become debilitating and it changes your ability to live your everyday life. It affects your activities of daily living, right? That's what they call them, ADLs. If your daily living activities are affected by your mental struggles, 9 times out of 10, a therapist is going to say to you, well, maybe I need to refer you to a psychiatrist for an evaluation for possibly putting you on medication. Because at this point, it's very possible that your depression has chemically affected your body, and you might need some medication to kind of readjust that. Does that mean you have to be on medication for the rest of your life? No, it does not. It may mean 6 months and you wean off. It's like anything else, but you might need that to kind of bring you back to a place of stability, and in conjunction with therapy, to help you learn new tools and coping mechanisms and skills. Because the whole point is overall for you to learn new skills to be able to address life. Don't stop lifing, right?
No,
Trauma don't stop
no,
happening in
and
our
you
lives.
gotta
Crisis don't stop happening in
function.
our lives. Change don't stop happening. People don't stop dying. Stuff doesn't. Those things don't stop. They don't stop happening throughout your lifetime.
No.
No, not at all. What happened? So I tell people all the time, there's never a time. My job is not to um, diagnose you and tell you that this is what it is, and then you know, and then you in turn fall
Send you
victim to
away.
this whatever it is you've been diagnosed with.
Mm-hmm.
No, diagnosis is merely okay. This is an acknowledgement that these things are happening in your life, and whatever level that's happening, we have to address it.
Mm-hmm.
However, my job and responsibility is to teach you how to manage and cope with it, because these things may never stop happening. Certain things are never going to stop happening.
Right.
Like they're not.
And, right. And
But you
then
got to learn not to fall apart every
every
time it happens.
time it happens,
But we got to
and
figure out a way.
until we get that level of clarity, sometimes maybe that medication is needed to clear your
Right.
mind and to settle you, so that even you can hear the voice of God, because there's so much chaos and so much noise going on in our heads sometimes, that sometimes we just need to slow down
Yeah.
and detach ourselves from those things that are going on, so that we can really, like we were saying earlier, it puts distance between you and your relationship with God, or you and your ability to pray, and you and your ability to really trust that God is who he says he is.
Yeah.
And if you can't get that static out of your brain, and you can't get those things that are happening and those emotions under control, you're not really, that's like you being hungry and I come to you with a track but not a sandwich.
Right.
You gonna be like, girl, I don't want that track.
Right.
I want a sandwich
Right.
because I'm hungry.
This is what it is.
and
Yeah.
then maybe after you get some food in your belly, you would be more willing to hear what I have to say
Right.
about Jesus.
Right.
Because not for nothing, that's what he did.
Right. You got to meet the needs
You got to meet
first
the needs
before you're
first.
open up to anything else.
Yeah, and if
So
your
true.
needs are not being met mentally or physically, God made us in this triune
You're
being, this body,
trying.
mind, and soul, and all three parts have needs.
Hey,
Hey, King
Kamani.
Anaj.
Hey, Miss Darlene. Yes.
All three parts have needs that need to be met.
Yes.
And it's hard because we are in these physical bodies, sometimes that leads the
Yeah.
way. We can't get our
That
flesh out the way to be able for our spirit and our soul to be healthy.
it's the
And
thing that tells on us, right? It's the thing that tells the depth of dysfunction that we function in. What
yep.
people's behaviors and what you see on the outside and what we experience in our bodies. It's this book called "Our Bodies Keep the Score." It was required reading for us, and I love it. Like the book, it can be a little academic, but I encourage anybody that can get their hand on it to read it, because what it does is it helps you understand how life's traumas, life's experiences impacts our body and where it manifests itself at, and how our body is telling us, whether it's through our behaviors, whether it's through illness,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's through things that we can't seem to regulate or change that are obstructive in our lives. It is the acting out, it's the behavior, it's the fleshly part of us that tells where we are in need and in dysfunction, both spiritually and mentally. And so, um, and as spiritual beings first, we address the spiritual first, but it does not go without addressing the mental. The scripture says that, you can come that the spirit will leave a house, right? When he's talking about casting spirits out of someone, he talks about the spirit would leave the house, but it goes out and gets 7 times 7 of those spirits to come back and inhabit. The interesting thing about is when something is in your house, right, and you're seeing it all the time, and this is the way you live, you've learned to live this way.
Yep.
Now, once that thing is removed, now you got to learn how to live differently in that space.
That
Who's
space.
going to teach you that? So after you've had these wonderful deliverance moments in church and had these wonderful times with God and these high spiritual experiences, you return now to the dimension that you live in every day, and certain things don't feel the same in the house. So how do you maintain what you experience at that different level or that higher level of dimension? How do I maintain that? That's when you need to go find somebody who can help you learn new tools to keep the house clean. Because if you ain't had to keep that house clean, it's like anything. I had a friend who just never learned how to clean a house. And I never will forget the first time I came over and showed her how to, like, to scrub a stove or sweep a floor. I thought that would be enough, but she didn't know how to do it, so I had to do it multiple times, like to tell her what things to buy and all kinds of stuff. And it was a very interesting experience. She was my friend, and I loved her. She was a great person. Just didn't have any clue because it was never taught to her. And when it was, and teaching her meant me doing it multiple times
Mhm.
until she learned, oh, I
Wow.
need this for that. And oh,
Mhm.
this works on that.
Mhm.
Oh, I need to find this for that. So now that she knows how, has gleaned and gotten the tools, she can manage and maintain on her own. That's what it is for you in your
Yep.
life when it comes down to mental health and spiritual well-being.
Yep. And I think it's important that we seek that out. A lot of our therapy can feel like it could be cost prohibitive. So I encourage everybody to reach out to your health insurance companies,
Yeah,
because they do cover um, the costs for therapy. And if you have a copay for a doctor, that's usually what you would be paying
for
for
therapy. The copay is the
therapy.
same.
It's just your regular copay to go see any other type of specialist.
Mhm.
So don't think that it's something that you can't afford. Don't think that it's something that you don't deserve. Um,
Right,
and don't think that it's something that you shouldn't do just because you also, believe in God.
right, right.
No, don't think that. Listen, this was great. I thank everybody for joining us. We're gonna,
Oh, we had a really great group tonight.
yeah,
So
we
grateful for
did.
all of you. If this blessed you in any way, just drop a note in here.
Yes.
Tell us something that you learned tonight that you didn't know before. Tell us something tonight that you may have heard that it's like, oh, it kind of encouraged you to maybe find a therapist or giving you some information or insight that you didn't have. Just drop that in the chat for me really quickly. And while you're dropping that in the chat, I wanted to say this, Shana, before we got off. Signs that you know that you need therapy. Any persistent sadness or anxiety that you're feeling. If you start to feel any, like feeling extremely numb, like not having any feeling at all, and feeling emotionally shut down. Any difficulty sleeping or changes in your appetite.
Mm-hmm.
If you have persistent troubles in maintaining certain kinds of relationships or communication, you need a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or unmotivated, you probably need to talk to somebody. If you have unresolved trauma or grief, if you're still dealing with deep unforgiveness, unresolved trauma, that fears and things have you're dealing with those kinds of fears, I would encourage you to see someone. If you have a substance abuse issue, or any type of addiction, whether it's work, sex, substances, food, if you know that you are struggling and want to shift something in your life and can't because you just can't stop that particular behavior, you probably need to see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If you're feeling like you always have to be the strong one, but while trying to be strong for others, you're feeling empty, you need to see somebody. If you have a severe loss, like a sense of identity that you're missing or purpose in your midlife, um, you need to see somebody.
Yeah.
If you're constantly angry, irritable, or full of resentment, you need to see somebody. So I want to encourage you tonight.
Just see
It
something.
Those are signs that you need a therapist.
Yes. So thank y'all so much for joining us. Was that your mindful moment, or you got
That's
more
my
to
mindful
say?
moment. So be mindful that you need to pay attention to those things.
You need to pay attention to those things and pay attention to yourself. Trust what your body is telling you. Trust what's happening, because emotions, although we shouldn't make decisions based on our emotions, they are real.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage everybody that while you're doing all of that, to at least try to remember and maintain the fact that God has never left you.
Never.
He will never leave you. He wants you to come to him, and he wants you to seek him in all of it. And if you can't see the forest for the trees, then you need therapy.
Yeah.
If you can't see past where you are to be able to pray, or to be able to trust God, or to be able to feel the presence of God, or even understand the fact that you're loved by him, then you need therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you are a believer and that's what you know to be true. But if you're not feeling it to be true, then you need therapy. You might need some therapy. You might need somebody to help you through these rough moments in your life. The Bible says in Matthew chapter 11, verse 28, to come unto me, all you who are labor and poor, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest.
Yeah. He is the God of rest, and that's my final word. That
And and get some sleep. People do not underestimate the power of getting good sleep. So if you're not sleeping well, and if you're not getting any rest, and you're just on this treadmill and going through the mill of life, please seek some therapy.
yeah, and I'll post on our page, Shayna, a sleep hygiene suggestions. So
Hmm.
if it'll let you know that how you go about getting to bed at night is not healthy. And then you
Right.
read this, you can see whether or not it's a healthy way to do it or an unhealthy way to do it,
Hmm.
so that you can get the best rest that you can. And know this: He is a wonderful counselor,
Hmm.
and we are the hand and feet of God. So sometimes that counseling is sent through someone else, but
Right.
He ultimately is a wonderful
Yes, he
counselor, and He can
is.
supply every one of your needs.
Yeah, so thank y'all. Thanks, Val. Yes, self-care is physically, emotionally, spiritually is extremely important. And I encourage everybody to care for yourself because God cares for you and he wants to see you care for yourself. We love you guys
So
so much.
much.
And I
Yeah.
pray that whatever it is that you might be going through in life, mm-mm. Why? People be pressing on my spirit. Whatever it is you might be going through in life, whatever, the heaviness of it all, or the confusion of it all, that you find yourself in a space that you're at least working towards um, finding your way
Why
through it.
don't you pray real quick, Shane, since they're pressing?
Oh,
Press
okay.
right on into some prayer. Amen.
All right. So as we get ready to go, we thank you guys so much for joining us. But Father God, we thank you so much for every person who has
Yes,
joined
Lord.
us, not only tonight, but every night in these 2 seasons of Church Girls Chronicles. We don't take it for granted that you have blessed us with this platform. So God, because we're on this platform, we're going to not just act like you are not in control. You are in control of everything.
Mm.
So, Lord, I pray for every person that has joined us tonight. Ask that you would meet them exactly where they are and remind them that you love them. Remind them that they belong to you, no matter what it is that they may have experienced, no
Yes.
matter what it is that they may have, that the things that may have been done to them,
Yes,
maybe
Lord.
things that they have seen, or maybe things that they have witnessed in their life. God, I ask that you would please, Lord, just allow them to feel loved by you. Clear the space, if even for a moment, so that your love can peek through the darkness, so that your love can peek through the mess and the trauma. And God, I ask that you would encourage them to find and seek the help that they need. Lord, I ask that you would settle their spirits and their souls, give them comfort. Lord, allow them to find rest and remind them that you are a God who loves them. In Jesus' name, we thank you so much and we give you praise. Listen, I want everybody to have a great night.
Have a great night, guys.
Have a great,
Thank you
great
for
night.
joining us. We
Thank you
love you.
so much for
Thank
joining us. We
you.
want to
Thank
see you
you.
guys next week
Yes.
on Church Girls Chronicles. I think we're going to continue the series. I don't know how long
Yeah.
we're going to go through with this, but I think it's important, especially in today's climate, that we talk about how we're feeling.
Hmm. Emotional management. We're gonna be back next week. Love it.
And yes, we'll be back next week. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us on Church Girls Chronicles, and have a great week. We'll see you on Thursday at
See you on
7.
Thursday. Let's see if we can get
I
our.
don't think, I think I'm too close.
I don't think it's working to me now.
This part is my favorite part.
There
I
it
never
is.
get it
Yeah.
right. I can't get
You're
it.
doing too much. Back
Let's
it
see
up. Back it
my
up.
little thumbs. They're
There they
oh
go.
yay!
Yes.
All right, awesome.
Good night.
Thanks so much for joining us. Y'all have a wonderful night, and we'll see you next week on Church Girls Chronicles.
Yeah.
Take
All
care.
right. Good
Bye.
night. Be well.